Welcome to Evolve to Succeed, the podcast that brings together entrepreneurs, founders, business leaders and experts to talk about their journeys and explore the link between personal and business success. I'm your host, Warren Munson, founder of Evolve, a coaching, training and development company focused on enabling business and personal success and creating a community of like-minded individuals. Whether that be through our peer groups, one-to-one coaching, our training and development programs for you and your teams, or through our content and events, our mission is to get the best out of each individual and inspire them to be better both in life and in business. If you want to learn more about Evolve, including our beautiful co-working space in Ashley Cross in Poole, then please go to evolvemembers.com, where you'll find great content, insights, details of all of our services, and also information on our forthcoming events. For now though, let's get on with the show. Welcome to this week's episode. Today we're doing something different. We're having a panel discussion on the good, bad and mad of what may be coming in 2023, featuring three guests: Mark Cribb, founder and managing director at Urban Guild; Alex Skan, co-founder and managing director at Void Acoustics; and our third guest, the managing director, co-founder at Talent Drive, is Martin Smith. Mark, Alex and Martin represent different sectors: hospitality, product manufacturing and business services respectively. With so much noise around 2023, I wanted to get their perspectives on what they see as the challenges and opportunities for the forthcoming year. Among those topics discussed are how COVID prepared us by refocusing our why, and how this will help business owners to slim down and focus on the basics once again. We also address issues such as looking after your team during uncertain times, hybrid working, attracting and retaining talent, and navigating the rapidly rising trends of sustainability and artificial intelligence. Finally, I ask all the guests what good will look like for each of them come December 2023. It's a conversation full of interesting opinions and insight, as well as in equal measures, optimism and caution. Whatever your sector, any business owner looking to add as much wisdom as possible as they set out their plans for 2023 and beyond will do well to listen to this discussion. Please do enjoy. Welcome. Well, this is a bit different. I've got three guests in front of me. So welcome Mark, welcome Alex and welcome Martin. So each of you represents a different sector. As I explained to the listeners in the intro, we've got hospitality, product and manufacturing and business services represented. So really this is kind of a catch up on what we think may be coming down the line in 2023, the good, the bad and the mad. So we should probably just kick off really with a little bit from each of you of what you think perhaps your top three. Let's start with the negative so we can move to the positive. So let's think about what you think your top three challenges for 2023, the year coming, is. Martin, could I turn to you first?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me again, Warren, on the show. So I think for me, I'm going to gear a lot of my answers today around the profession I'm in, obviously in the professional services sector and recruitment specifically. So I think the major challenge is going to be the war on talent this year. Yeah. So I think it's around retention of your talent, attraction of your talent, and I think just the general inflation with supply chain volatility and things going on the market. There's been an increase in salary inflation as well, so I think that all encapsulates the sort of issue around employment engagement, and maybe we'll come on to that point later, but I think they're going to be the biggest challenges, because ultimately if you don't get the right people, that's going to stifle growth and investment. So that would be my...
Okay. Well, when we get to the kind of discussion part, we should definitely, and I made a note already, we'll talk about the war on talent, because I'm sure it's something that's going to affect us all. Alex, what are your thoughts on your challenges that you're facing?
Yeah, I think I'd split it up into three sectors. People, supply and money. They're my kind of main concerns, and they are broad as much as they are narrow. People, really, we are recruiting quite heavily. We've been recruiting quite heavily over a year. It's not getting much easier to recruit. It's still, as we were saying earlier, still quite hard to recruit people. And can I recruit quick enough for the business needs? And obviously there's the needs of the people in the business that at the moment it's all a bit unknown. What's the future bring? What's the personal expenditure you've got to go through to get through the day? money, obviously interest rates and quite volatile. So if we need to be borrowing anything within the business, or as anybody else in the supply of our business needs to borrow, so whether it's our customers or our customers' customers or our supplier, so that there's always that concern: is can I get hold of cash, and is it going to be cost effective? Is there going to be constraints on borrowing? And the other is supply. So in the last year, last 18 months, 2 years, especially in the electronics sector, as a lot of other sectors, the supply of goods and materials has been hampered as the demand post-COVID had come through. That continues to be a problem, especially in electronics, which we are involved with. On the plus side, there is things are getting a little better from supply at the moment, but with all these unknowns in front of us, they're the three areas we'd be looking at.
Yeah, I'd imagine, 2022 must have been quite tough in terms of that component supply issue, and seeing that challenge continue into 2023
Sure.
as it works its way through, I'm sure will be something that you need to face, won't it? Mark, turning to you, your three challenges for the year.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. Thanks for having me back. It's easy to sort of focus in on your own sector, and it just feels like, certainly in hospitality, that we've been in the eye of the storm now for so long with everything that happened in COVID, and then so little time to recover. And one of the big ones now that I guess we're going through is consumer spend. We're directly in that sort of eye of the storm again, in the fact that the BBC are constantly telling everybody that they haven't got any cash. I'm not sure if the reality is actually there out on the street yet, but this whole recession word, and certainly people are having problems with their energy spend at home, which directly impacts how much they're going to spend in restaurants. But that energy spend in restaurants is insane. We all run really big premises. We need to keep those premises warm and cosy. We tend to have loads of lighting. We've certainly got loads of expensive kitchen equipment that are constantly on. Whether there's one person in the restaurant on a quiet breakfast service midweek or 120 people there on a Saturday night, the kit is on. It's a little bit more if you're cooking for a busy service, but fundamentally the equipment's on, and that energy cost, and the government coming out and saying that they're going to stop that support or at least limit it from March, that's really worrying. And then the other one is staffing. Same as the other sectors, I guess, is just that recruitment, and whether some of our recruitment naturally tends to come from overseas, unfortunately. I say unfortunately in the fact that the European market tends to be they really love hospitality, they're motivated for it, and there's an issue now around visas and access for people to come across. So those are probably my top three. I could give you another 5, Warren, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, I asked for 3, so I'll stop there. But it's interesting because all of you have mentioned, and we will therefore have a discussion around it, maybe in a moment, around those team, people, recruitment, talent. So let's go with the positive then. Obviously, 2023, it's the podcast is entitled The Good, the Bad, the Mad. The good side of things, and let's go in the reverse order. So, Mark, where do you see your opportunities in the year?
Yeah, well, I think something we learned in COVID was just how important it is to spend time with your friends and with your family, and how bored we all got of being locked up. And I think there's still this recognition that actually, hospitality is important, and we don't want to be on Zoom calls. We want to be meeting people face to face. We don't want to be not seeing our friends and our family. So I suppose despite the sort of the constant propaganda, it does still feel fairly robust. We've just come out of a pretty decent Christmas period. It wasn't as good as it should be, but compared to Omicron and obviously the year before. So I'm interested to know, I suppose, the reality of this, media kind of downturn and media recession, and how long. So I'm fairly optimistic that actually we're quite a sticky sector, and people are excited to go out. Although I said, staffing as a negative, again, it does feel like it's changed a little bit. I think a lot of independent restaurants have cut down their hours. We learned in COVID that it was okay to close occasionally, and a lot of them are down to 5 days weeks. We've learned, you don't have to be open from 8 a.m. till midnight 7 days a week. And I think a lot of the sector, it was quite a sick sector. You and I have spoken about this before, about the fact that hospitality was ill before COVID. Partly because of the growth in the sort of VC-backed, chain restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So in some ways, a lot of the rubbish has gone. A lot of places have gone, and actually for the ones that survive, there's a smaller supply. So if the demand is there, we've got a smaller supply network. So I'm optimistic about that. And I'm always optimistic that it's going to be the best summer on record, Warren, and it's going to be hot and sunny, and everybody's going to be really thirsty and wandering around in swimming trunks and bikinis, wanting to drink cocktails and cold beer. So that's going to be great.
That's it. Ever the optimist. Alex?
Yeah, so 23 for us as a business it's probably one of the most exciting years since we've even started. So I'll kind of go back post COVID. That whole process of COVID regeneration, refurbishment, renewal. It was, I don't want to make it too good a thing, but for us was quite a godsend because it was a big reset button for a lot of people.
It did, didn't it? It enabled us all to put a little bit of a spotlight on our businesses, and where we'd perhaps been a little bit, not lazy is the wrong word, but we let things go. We really hunkered down. We examined what we had.
I think also as from a business owner, maybe more aware of risk. So you're plodding along, expanding, growing. Supply's fine, money's fine. You're just trying to tackle, getting your head around running a business, and then something is devastating. COVID hits, and that okay. So post-COVID, right? I'm a lot more prepared now for things that go wrong, and after COVID, things got even worse in terms of supply and markets and everything. And so being able to adapt, make quick decisions within a business, be rational, taking advice, being more diverse. And now we've gone through a big, huge demand cycle within our industry. The big problem is no supply, massive oversupply. Now we're kind of settling down a bit, which is for business stability is a good thing, for much better thing for growth and stability. And also post-COVID, like Mark was saying, the businesses that weren't doing so well have disappeared, and the keener, leaner businesses have now come forward. That means that when we're selling to businesses, these are much more solid and better run businesses than were before. So the business is better than it was before. So that again, that from a building opportunity, that's another good thing for us to build upon. And also, not to blow my own trumpet, but we're an emerging brand. I say we're an emerging brand. We've been going 20 years, but now I can see with a bit more clarity that the light at the end of the tunnel is I can see the end of the tunnel now, and that tunnel is like success. And okay, now I can really do the things I really wanted to do, and never had the time or the money or the resources to do, and put some fundamental building blocks into what is going to be a very successful and
it's interesting,
good business.
Isn't it? Really upbeat kind of some feedback and responses from you, Alex. But it's interesting that when you talk about brand, isn't it, that actually developing a brand, particularly in a product sector, doesn't happen overnight. Maybe Martin and I, maybe local UK kind of markets, we can get out there, we can niche down, we can build a business services brand quite quickly. But building a brand in the product space that's worldwide takes years and years and years.
Takes years, and it's about reputation. And if you falter at any point, then that's not a good look from the outside world. So you really have to maintain the quality and all the things that you promised that you're going to deliver to.
That consistency. But it's quite interesting, and I suppose we'd all see it. You both sort of referenced it, is that this is tougher times, and tougher times like we've had, and perhaps from an economic condition we're going to have now, does take the poorer competitors out of the market, leaving space for the good brands, and that is a real opportunity.
I think we may be a little bit pessimistic about tougher times, and I'm sympathetic to there are people who are really, really struggling at the moment, but it is media led. It's not necessarily business led. It's tougher attitude, I think, rather than tougher times, and you've got to be resilient and be able to understand what could be coming ahead.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alex. Martin, your opportunities for this year?
Yeah, well, I guess flipping back from the negatives, like everyone's done, you turn to positives. Clearly, if there's an issue with attracting talent, and we talked around salary inflation stuff, there's an opportunity for us as a third-party agency, recruitment agency, to support those businesses to really find talent. So I think there's huge opportunities. We've seen it in the employment market in the UK, massive amounts of investment. Most organisations have double-digit growth in the last year. And I think going back to your point then around the sort of, I guess, the competition, I think actually there's been a bit of a rise in the specialists and a rise in the boutiques in our space compared to some of the more, high street and inverted commerce recruitment agencies where it's been a bit one size fits all approach, quite transactional in how they've recruited. People don't want that anymore. They want people that are true thought leaders in their space. They're ambassadors to the brands they work with, and they're a little bit more strategic in how they do recruitment, which has probably been some of our success. Because, as I say, you can be any recruiter, you'll see huge volume since we come out of COVID, and as I say, that big investment. But I think the differentiator between having a good year and having a very good year, as I say, is that approach to market and just being a little bit more strategic. I think the other thing as well is, from a flexible working point of view, we've all realised that you don't need, I appreciate hospitality, that might be different. You need chefs in the restaurants to obviously to cook the food, but in business services, we're seeing now that actually you can work from home. I know it's something you guys have done in your business as well, that agile working model, and actually that then allows, from a talent pool, geographically speaking, if you're a Dorset based business, actually you can attract people from Berkshire and Surrey and parts of London. We've seen a lot of migration from people moving out of the city into the sort of suburbs and the beautiful coast that we live on down here, which we all love living here. And actually, again, that's allowed a wider talent pool for business to attract talent. So there's huge opportunities there in 2023. And, like every other guest here, I'm very excited by that. And as I say, I see massive opportunity.
Brilliant. It's great to hear you, all three of you, so upbeat. And my next question was, is your plan for 2023 to hunker down and batten down the hatches, or, front foot forward? And clearly, I don't think I need to even ask the question. It's clearly front foot forward. But there will be those listening to this podcast that perhaps, don't feel quite as confident about the business or the environment, or it's their first recession they're going through, or first tough period in business. So have any of you got any insight onto any strategies that you would, give, provide, and things that you've done in the past and are going to do now to really push forward and do a lot more than survive in 2023?
So I think for me, COVID, and again, we keep coming back to COVID because it still feels quite raw, I suppose, but, really simplified the business. I'd been guilty of creating quite a complicated business in the sort of 15, 16 years pre-COVID. And actually one of the things that I'm so excited about this year is just getting back to those basics. You'd have to have a pretty young business not to have been through a tough time, I suppose, wouldn't you? Because it's been a particularly turbulent sort of 3 or 4 years. But coming out the back of it, whether it's been, sorting out your finances, really going through every line on the profit and loss account and working out where's wasted expenditure, whether it's really getting into, what do the customers, genuinely want from a restaurant? We'd gone off on a few sort of tangents from doing cocktail kits that could be delivered to your house, from having a loyalty scheme where we would drop off hampers of local food to your house, where we started to employ our own butchers and bakers and making everything that we could possibly make under one roof. And they were all great, and we learned so much on them, and it was a really exciting journey. But, I'm so excited to just get back into the core aspect of the business, which is, train the staff really, really well so you get really, really good customer service. Train the team really well so they cook and make amazing food and work much more closely with the suppliers. There's less suppliers now. A lot of the suppliers, went under in COVID as well. So rebuilding those relationships with the suppliers and then just creating really beautiful venues, music and the ambience and the atmosphere.
So your sort of advice to somebody listening to this would be, I suppose it follows on a bit from what Martin was saying, is niche down, understand what you're really good at, really
simplify. Just simplify. Get rid of the noise. Get rid of all of the random things and all of the noise and all the stuff that maybe one day might be nice. Just focus on the core stuff in this year.
But as business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, whatever you want to bash the four of us, then we like the shiny new things, don't we? And it's quite hard to not get distracted by them.
Yeah. It's taken me 18 years, Warren, to get to this point where I've decided to go for the simple stuff. But, it feels like 2023 is the year.
I think it's also maybe stripping it back. I found during the pandemic, and I'm out of everyone here the probably newest business owner, so I guess for me it was my first real challenge with it. But I think what I found sort of getting through it was actually stripping it back to why I set up the business in the first place. What was actually my vision? Why was I doing it? Why was I not just going into a 9-to-5 job, paid employee and sort of cracking on with that? And I think that helped. And my advice to anyone that's going through challenging start to 2023 is don't lose sight of why you set the business up. What was the vision? Why did you do it? Was it to, was it a lifestyle business? I know that's been bandied around a lot, but was it looking at accelerated growth? Are you looking at diversifying your service offering? Whatever it may be, I think stripping it back, because I think we've all perhaps lost sight at times around our business and the vision, what we're doing. Excuse me, it's very easy to lose sight of that when you go through tough moments. Actually, do I pivot? stay on course. To your point, strip it back, make it simple, as Mark says, and that would be one thing that I would strongly advise people.
Brilliant, isn't it? It's good. It's one of the things, 3 words I always use, and it's in these times I think you do need to go back and reflect on, is focus, passion and belief. Because when we all started our business or got involved, we had focus, we had passion, and we had belief. And sometimes along the way, particularly if you're taking a bit of a kicking from time to time, it's easy to lose one of those 3, but you do need all 3 to really thrive, don't you?
I think the important thing is motivation, because without that, if you're not motivated to either run your business the way you want it, the way it wants to be run, you are going to struggle. Your business may fail because you're not motivated, because you're not going to do the extra things that you might be required. There were times when we run our business, it was the only thing kept in the game was our passion, and I strongly believe that the things we do, put ourselves through, and take those risks to get to the other side. That's the extra thing that's required to be a successful business this day and age. Definitely. So I think motivation is key, and stay away from demotivation. So the media is very negative. It's all very much doom and gloom. I can't remember the amount of time my mum rings me up and says, "Oh, what are you doing about the energy bills, etc." So it's you've got to have a right mindset, and we're all very positive people in the room. That's great for us, but you've got to learn, if you're finding things hard, it's the emotional trauma that's probably finding hard more than anything else. But if you've got a positive attitude, maybe your business is going to fail, but okay, you'll fail, you'll liquidate it, start again, start something new. That's something to look forward to. So I think, if anything, is talk to other people, take advice, understand what you want to do. It's important to you as a person, as a business, and more importantly, stay motivated and focused on what you want to achieve.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think Alex is right about just turning the media off, isn't it? I used to have 24-hour news on behind my desk when I was working quite regularly, and it's probably been years since I've done that. Just switch it all off. Just switch off that constant negativity. You can pop into the newspaper and have a little look, once a day maybe, just to keep abreast of anything important. But that constant 24-hour news cycle, it's like, get that out of your head. You don't need it.
Yeah, definitely. There is a spin there, isn't there? That bad news is what they want to put out. It does promote, people get to listen, but you can get dragged into it. And I suppose that neatly kind of leads on, from what you were saying, Alex, is okay, so naturally, perhaps a lot of business owners will be more extrovert, more upbeat, more kind of confident, more motivated in their approach, but linking that, in terms of how our teams are feeling, they are perhaps employed roles, feeling a little more insecure, perhaps some of the energy crisis really starting to hit, and looking at, Martin, what you were saying about staff retention being key in 2023. I open the floor to what are you guys doing to make sure that you are looking after your team, you have got their well-being at heart, you are looking after their kind of mental health in these uncertain terms. What are you doing?
Yeah, so I've just been getting back much closer to a team than I've been for years. Now, partly that might be down to circumstance, because I've sold a couple of restaurants, but I over the Christmas period, I know I've got a particular chef. We didn't really have enough hours for him, and I just wanted to get to know the guy and understand him a little bit better. And it's been donkey's years since I've probably gone to that level of effort with a relatively junior member of the team to sit down. It was it was in the holiday period. The restaurant was shut, so just after Christmas, everybody was off, and I sat down for an hour and a half, and I dug deep into his sort of history. He was born in Venezuela, then he moved over to Chile, and he came around the world and just really showed an interest. And it was genuinely fascinating to follow his story and hear about his journey and some of the challenges that he's got, and the fact he wants to buy a house, and then look at ways we could help him out and just try and find it. We probably wouldn't have done that historically, but again, it's that reminder of, if you work in hospitality, you probably like people, and unless we have really good, energized, passionate, enthusiastic people who are looking after the customers, they're going to have a bad visit. And it's been, again, a reminder to spend the time, get to know the team. I want to get back to the point where I know everybody's name, I know a little bit about their history, I know what their passions are, I know what drives them, I know what their plans for the future are, if they want to open their own restaurant, or if they're just working in a restaurant because actually they want to study in their spare time and go into a different sector. And certainly on a personal level, I'd lost that connection. So a lot of it, I think, is just improving that relationship. It should be symbiotic, shouldn't it? The company that they work for and the team themselves. It should be a relationship that benefits both. It shouldn't be too far one way.
So understand, spend more time with your team and treat them more as individuals. And I suppose, Martin, I tend to know your business in a little way as I do. you've got quite a young team.
Yeah.
So do you think there's a difference in approach you're going to have to adopt, or?
Definitely, and one of my biggest challenges, my team, a lot of them are based outside of Dorset. A lot of them
they're
remote workers. So actually having that face time, I mean, Mark's a great point, staying closer to the team, and I try as best I can, but it's really difficult. As we all know, it's really difficult to sometimes get that engagement when you're just doing it via sort of Teams or remotely. So don't get me wrong, I go up to London and stay connected with them, but it's more challenging when the team is quite sort of quite sort of nationwide and quite remote based. So I think for me, again, sort of talking a bit, elaborating what Mark was saying there, use me as a soundboard. That old cliche sort of line, the door's always open, the phone's always on, but I want to make sure I'm as accessible as I can for the team, even if it's just, I had an incident just before we came here today. Someone just wanted to share their successes, and I could tell she just wanted to tell me that she'd had a good call and a job that she's landed, and that's great, and I want to be there as the voice to help and guide. And I always say to them, we're not a KPI-driven recruitment agency. We try and be different in how we do things. I get the guys to sort of create their own sort of metrics that they can sort of achieve themselves. But I think for them, it's just ensuring that we're as responsive as we can. As I say, I'm there as a soundboard. We're there, we do training and implementing other things as well. But what we try and do is we're doing like a buddy up scheme within the business, so it's almost like a bit of a mentor or a peer-to-peer, someone in the team. So it's not just everything vertical up to Martin. They can kind of have those other people to talk, because to your point, it is quite a young team. For 4 of my members of staff, this is their first job out of university, so they don't know anything else. So they're kind of, and as you well know in recruitment, as you can imagine in a sales role, it's highs and lows, right? And for them it's just making sure, actually just talk to each other, talk to the person that joined 6 months ago, because they've just been through every emotional roller coaster that you've just been through as well. I can sit here and talk to them around my 14, 15 years of recruitment. It's okay, you have good and bad times, but I think actually to a degree the empathy they're probably going to get is going to be better from peers of theirs that's going to understand it more. So I'm just trying to get the team to be joined up with each other, and having that peer-to-peer sort of thing. And I find that's really helping with their own sort of mental well-being and feeling connected and joined up with the business. I love that
approach, and obviously that's going to help everybody feel a bit more connected when they are working more on a hybrid remote model, if you
exactly. And we have access to co-working spaces across London, so they can come and plug into a coffee shop wherever they need to be. But again, I think that's been really, really powerful to have those sort of other people in the business to support them.
I think what's very important, especially when there are lots of concerns with employees and staff, is that you've got clear lines of communication, and that people understand that they can communicate if they have got a concern, and if it's a concern with their next superior, that they can go to somebody else within the business, or if it's something personal, there's something set up in place that they can go and speak to. There's somebody in the business that's there to listen to them. And also coming down the other way, that this is, as an employer, this is our expectations of your performance. This is what you want to be seeing out of you. This is where your milestones are. So there's no confusion about what's expected of you and what's required. But also, if you need anything from us, you can talk to us, and we're here to understand. So it's setting that balance and getting that right. And I think it's also important that there is a good right to apply as well. So again, that two-way communication from the top of the business right down to the bottom of the business, because some of the things that some of the bottom business is being exposed to, myself who running the business might not be aware of it, and they can expand and be amplified and be quite a big thing. And you may find that particular person is really struggling and doesn't know how to communicate. So I think for in answer to your question, what we're doing is understanding what we need as a business, making sure it's implemented. We've got to a stage now in our business that we need a solid HR foundation to the business. So we've always done HR within the business as best we could. But I think now we're at a size we need to really have a dedicated
professionalise that kind of aspect of the
professionalised aspect. I think you probably went through something similar.
Absolutely, yeah. Similar size to you are now, Alex, and it transformed our kind of world.
Yeah. So and we try and do as best we can, but we aren't trained professionals in HR. We only know what we've learned on the job. So that's our intention this year is really doing a lot of work on the people side of the business, which is I'd say it's a long time coming.
And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because one way of that is making sure you get to know your team, you understand them, you're giving them time, to talk to each other. But actually, what you've said there, Alex, makes a lot of sense in that they need clarity as well of what the expectations are. It's uncertainty isn't great for anybody in a team.
Yeah,
to know what their expectations are.
As you own the business, I fall in that trap all the time. That people should know what I'm thinking.
Do that in relationships as well.
So, I suppose we're just finalising that kind of conversation around people. Martin used in his kind of intro this kind of war on talent. We're seeing that war on talent ease a little bit, and the people becoming available in the marketplace. I don't know if you're all feeling and seeing that, and what do you think you're going to do differently in 2023 to attract talent? Maybe Alex, I'll come to you first, then I'll go to Mark, and then I'm going to end with the professional in recruitment.
No pressure.
Well, I think it's a case of making the business look attractive from the outside world, which is what we always do anyway, but also ensuring that we're not only we're externally marketing the business, but we're internally marketing the business as well. So when somebody comes into the business, and everybody who joins our business comes and meets everybody in the business, they walk around, they can introduce themselves to anyone in the business, and they get a good feel of our culture and the smiley faces. They do. You walk around the business and people come up to you and they smile and how are you doing? It's that culture. It's that kind of, which is quite unusual in a manufacturing business, because we're all busy working making widgets, but it's that kind of mix of culture that we have in our business. So it's that factor of making sure that you have got that culture embedded in your business, and when somebody comes into for whether it's for an interview or prospectively if they're coming in as a supplier, you never know how they're going to come into the business. They get the right impression, a true impression of who you are.
Brilliant. Thank you. Culture is what it is all about, isn't it? Definitely. And if you can promote that culture to the outside world, you become that kind of employer of choice, don't you?
Yeah, so I think for us, again, going back to that sort of idea of simplicity and understanding the business a little bit better again. For years, we've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on marketing and all these initiatives and ideas. But the thing that makes the biggest amount of difference to our customers coming in is customers recommending each other. It's that word of mouth kind of thing. And I think it's the same in hospitality, basically. I've always thought if you work in hospitality, you should come and work for somebody like us. I.e., we're independent. We really, genuinely love the sector. We're all about good food and fairness. And we're starting to see, by getting back to that, what we were talking about just now, about, getting to know the team better and understanding their desires and looking after them a little bit better, they are recommending us to their peers, and that's so much more of an effective sort of marketing strategy, a recruitment strategy, because then they also get on. And what we've also had is we've had a number of people come back to the business that maybe haven't been with us for a few years. We got a little bit bigger, we lost our way a little bit, but actually they go off out there into the world and find out, what, A, they were pretty good anyway, and B, now that they're back to their sort of old selves. So we're really focusing in on, I suppose, retention. Let's not lose the people we've got, because actually it's quite a sort of transient sector, hospitality. So if we really look after them, and then they go out, they do the work for us, they talk to their peers, they bring people in. So I'm nervous because recruitment in hospitality has been dire. But I keep saying to my team, we don't need to fill. There's 200 odd restaurants in Bournemouth. We don't need to fill 200 restaurants. We've just got to fill one. So we just need enough team members to recruit one. So let's just be really, really good at what we do. And then if the customers are happy, the staff are happy, and vice versa. So, but I do live in this deluded, optimistic world where it's all going to be okay, Warren. So ask me the question in 6 months' time.
But we sometimes, it's a good point. We sometimes forget it, don't we? Is actually getting our team to recommend people to come and work within our businesses. If they're happy, then bring others to the business is a great way of addressing the war on talent.
And you can do that with an actual strategy of going, okay, you get 250 quid for every person that you bring in that gets through their probation, or you might not need to do that, because if they're actually happy and motivated enough, then they want to almost show off a little bit. In the same way that when you take your friends to a restaurant, you want to be proud of it and you want to show them how good it is. The team want to do that. If they've got peers who work in the sector, they want to go, no, come and work at our place, it's really, really good. So hopefully we won't even need the 250 quid.
So I said at the start of this question move to the professional, Martin?
I don't know about that. Well, I'll do my best. I mean, I think I'm not going to come with any particularly scientific answer or revolutionary type thing here. I mean, I think for us as a business, I totally agree with Mark. Word of mouth is really powerful. We found that we've had a couple of people join us from competitors that we've sort of headhunted other people, and they've come in on the back of referrals. They trust us, right? You know, our procurement leaders, who are they? Which agency, which recruiter they're going to use? They're going to talk to their peers. Who have you used? Who have you enjoyed? And that's how we've, to be honest with you, that's been a big part of our growth strategy. I think it goes back to kind of the value proposition though, and kind of what I was saying earlier around our sort of route to market and what we represent as a recruitment partner. And we use that word a lot. We talk around partnerships and collaboration and showing up differently in the market. You know, I'm sure like, you know, your restaurants and in your business as well, Alex, that you want to make sure you show up differently, because there's a lot of, let's be clear, a lot of recruitment agencies in the UK. I'm sure you've dealt with them a lot in your sectors as well, good, bad and indifferent. So you kind of got to think around, how do you want to show up differently? What do you want to be? And I talked earlier around that sort of thought leadership piece. That's why I do my podcast, Talent Talks, to get procurement leaders on. It's a great access tool to get procurement decision makers in a room to talk around their careers, their background. And actually, we're generally, as recruiters, we're generally interested in what's going on in the market, where it's talking around, you know, sustainability, where it's talking around, you know, D&I, all those issues that every business is facing in the UK. We want to know about it. We want to talk to them, and we've got this almost private access, as I'm sure you have with your guests, for them to talk around themselves. Naturally, that builds up rapport, and naturally, long term, they'll hopefully work with us and use us and sort of build that relationship further. But no one's really doing that in our sector. They probably listen to this and more will do it, but no one's really doing that in our sector at the moment. And I think the other thing, going back to the team, so that's externally facing and how we kind of get engagement and attract people into the business, and talking around the retention piece. I just want my team to enjoy it. I can talk around, we offer good training and with the support, and, you know, give them the flexibility to work where they want and do, you know, within reason, do what they need to do to get the job done, and be very output led by the result of hiring someone. But we want them to enjoy it first and foremost, because I've worked, as I'm sure we all have, in businesses and organisations where I've not enjoyed the job. But you know what? It paid the bills. I worked with some relatively interesting businesses, and I kind of was learning some stuff, but I wasn't enjoying the job. So my major thing for the team, and I guess one of my major sort of mission statements when I set Talent Drive up, was I want people to enjoy where they work, and I want them to have to feel that, because if they enjoy where they work, we're going to get good results and good output, and they'll probably hopefully stay, you know, for a long period of time. So I think for me, that's what I'll be looking for any business. I'll be active, encouraging. Do your team generally enjoy what they do? Are you empowering them to do the job correctly, while giving them the right support without, you know, micromanaging them and you know, the stuff that's poor practice. So yeah, brilliant. Not revolutionary, but you know, that's
well,
what
I don't think there's not
an answer. There's not
a revolutionary answer to you know, that kind of recruitment issue, and how do you attract good people in times when it's easy to recruit, let alone when it's kind of a bit tougher. I want to move on to two sort of key subjects, taking them each in turn, that I think, you know, will, you know, come more to the fore, even more than it perhaps it has in recent years. And those two themes are around kind of that sustainability issue, and also kind of tech and AI. So let's do sustainability first. I mean, how are you all approaching sustainability and some of those kind of net zero objectives that are being, you know, driven as an agenda within your businesses? And how important is it to you within your businesses? Alex, can I come to you first?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we use a lot of energy. It's, you know, we transport things around the world. We make things that use energy. So we do use a lot of energy. We have a high impact. There's no going around that. And there's no revolutionary way to make loudspeakers that doesn't do that. I wish there was. And through the 20 years we've been running the business, that it's never really been a forefront of our minds. A lot of it's been about coping and surviving. And I'm saying this because I think there's a lot of businesses that are faced with those same issues, and something like, you know, the environmental impact is now so much more relevant and so much in the forefront of our minds. It's like, and we are as a business, we're in a position, right, okay, we can make environmental choices now. We you know, it might cost us more money. We might not want to pass that cost on to the customer, but they are fundamental though, and it's really around about how we make things and how we run the business. So really, a lot of that is going to be investment, and it's financial investment, which, to be frank, there isn't a lot of help with that from the government, but that doesn't negate our responsibility to make sure we put those things in place. And we've looked at a lot of different ways of saving energy and making energy and recycling different materials over the last 3 or 4 years. Nothing has really been. It has to make business sense for us to do it. That's the first sense. There's no point in doing something because it's environmentally friendly, but if your business is going to fail, it's not going to work. So you always battle the commerciality and the environmental impact. That all being said, as we move on, that's going to be a forefront of our minds. So when we move building, is it fully insulated? Is there a way we can recycle all our waste products more efficiently? Are there ways we can manufacture that reuses our own waste so we don't have to transport the waste out and have it come back to us? So in terms of product development, it's almost how we're going to reuse and reuse our materials. That's what we'll be looking for. But these aren't short, quick solutions. These are things you'll have to build into the business. You don't. Okay, I'm going to buy recycled toilet paper tomorrow. That sorts out all the rainforest. That's not the solving problem. There are fundamental changes you have to do for the business. If you start from scratch, that might make things a bit more easier.
Yeah, but with 20 years of legacy and existing product, it becomes more difficult.
So it's not an excuse. I'm just being realistic.
Okay, brilliant. Great, honest answer. And it's true, though, isn't it? And I think the business has got to become sustainable in terms of financially stable, commercially stable, and to get to the point where if you're an established business, you really can put your eye and attention onto these things. But I suppose that challenge is there will be a startup in your sector, Alex, that is thinking very environmentally sustainability, and maybe they'll take some market share because consumers are demanding that and wanting that, but that's the balance.
I wish that was the case, but yeah. I don't think it is.
Okay. Martin?
It's a difficult one, I guess, because I sit on the other end of the podcast sometimes, or indeed the phone call, talking to procurement leaders where the sustainability agenda, the ESG agenda has to be, they just, we work with a lot of big retail clients in, and that FMCG sector, and we're actually hiring at the moment, for example, for one of our energy clients, an actual procurement manager that's carbon net zero. That's the person's job, is to ensure that the energy solutions into people's homes is sustainable and is going towards the net zero commitment. So our clients are absolutely on the agenda, and I'm generally interested in it. What's tough for us is, as a services business where we're all remote based at home, how do we drive that? How do we drive sustainability within a recruitment agency that's quite sort of dispersed around the UK? So the obvious thing for us is travel and our behaviours around how we travel, i.e. do we need to travel to that client and get on a plane up to Newcastle or wherever, or indeed travel up down to wherever it may be, or can we do that remotely? So I'm trying to change the behaviours in the team, but let's be clear, we could do a lot more, and we should be doing a lot more, and I'm trying to educate myself and the team to ensure that our own buying behaviours are correct. It's quite difficult to control that, as I say, in our sector, but there's more to be done for us, definitely.
Brilliant. Again, very open, honest answer. Mark?
Right, we've got a couple of hours, Warren. The thing is with
2 minutes.
Yeah, okay. The thing is with the environment and sustainability is actually what we eat and drink is the biggest impact that we can have. Travel's up there, but actually what we eat and drink. Now, is it my job? It's a really complicated thing, but is it our job to educate the public around that, around where their food and drink comes from and what they should and shouldn't be eating from a sustainability perspective? Or actually,
You've definitely had that in your agenda in the past, to 100%. Be that person.
Yeah, well, so we've always concentrated on local, ethical, seasonal food, following the seasons. If I find out the team have been flying strawberries over from Europe, so they can have them in December and stuff, I'd go crazy. It's just ridiculous. The difficulty is, and I've looked, actively looked at the B Corp kind of accreditation, and I really, really struggle, because fundamentally, if the consumer doesn't care, and it's great to hear that Martin, that procurement companies and big companies care, because I really don't believe that people care enough, because if they did, they'd change their diets and they'd talk about it more, and they'd go to the kind of restaurants that do that. Fundamentally, people want to go out and have some nice food, they want to have a treat, they want to go out and have a few drinks, and we've got to try and walk that line, because I think we're better informed than most members of the public. So actually, where we get our food and drink from, the fact that we'll work with local farmers and we'll follow the seasons, and we'll only get the vegetables in that are being grown within a relatively local area, all that kind of stuff. We just do that, and we just do it, whether it's quietly or whether it's noisily, it doesn't matter. But having been in that sector for 18 years and been for banging that drum, I can say that most people don't care. It's like the whole plant-based movement. You can have a 100% uplift in something that's 0.5% of what you sell on your menu. So great, wow, it's huge growth. It's huge. It's still bugger all of what we're doing. People want to go out and they want to enjoy a nice fillet steak and a portion of chips. That's the reality. So yeah, it's really complicated. So I think we're doing our bit, but I think it would be wrong to say that we're nailing it, because if we were nailing it, we'd be running a vegan restaurant that just sells, green smoothies that have been grown 2 miles away.
But it has been, I think, give you credit, it has been from day one, what was that, 17 years ago, that kind of source locally. It's always been something on your agenda, hasn't it? And I don't think you've lost the passion.
No,
for it.
not at all.
It's just a reality check.
Yeah, where do you get your fish? How is that fish caught? Is it bottom trawled? And if you're trawling the bottom of the ocean to catch your fish, you're dredging basically these big sort of wooden beams, and you're killing all of the wildlife that's on the bottom of the sea. Or are you line catching your fish? It's just phenomenally complicated and nuanced. But even if you go to be a B Corp or something, they don't get into that level of detail. It's such a big ignorance is bliss. You're better off just not to know. But if you get into the detail, so I'm still really passionate about it. I still love it.
But it's the cost
which is
side,
why I said it's 2 hours. It's a 2 hour conversation.
Mark, I guess, because it sounds wonderful.
Well, that's the same for all of us, isn't it? Alex could produce a speaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of, material that was all recycled, but the cost and everything, and would it have a place in the market?
Yeah, I think there's a duty to educate, but my prime objective is to supply. So if you're supplying and trying to educate, it's like, hey, have this nice product. And by the way, did you know that? Yeah, I'm just interested in the product. So it's human nature is the cause fundamentally of the environmental impact. And unless we all change our attitudes overnight.
But I think that's what we're starting to see is consumer is changing. They're starting to ask a few more questions, aren't they? But maybe not in enough depth. And again, maybe there's a bit of spin.
Some people are definitely. There's more people asking, but it's still in our sector. I think they'll ask if it's easy. It's like going on holiday. And how many people are not going on holiday because of the environmental impact of flying? Some people are, but most people will go, I'm really cold, it's really dark, it's been raining for months, I'm going on holiday. And it's difficult. It's the same in food. It's like I want to eat the steak. I get that. I want to go on holiday on a plane. I get that. It's a challenge, isn't it? Because if we need to understand how desperate the situation is. I don't know the answers.
I suppose as business leaders and owners, and maybe it's my philosophy, we were not going to be perfect, are we? But we've got to have it on our agenda, address it,
100%.
do the right thing.
100%.
And I think that does come back to one of the B Corp principles I like, is having running a business for purpose.
Definitely.
And I think if we start to do that, we start to address those issues.
I sound maybe negative there. The journey the trajectory is improving.
Yeah.
It's just slow.
Okay. Moving on to think about tech then. We are in this world where everybody's talking about AI, metaverse. I'm a bit of a tech laggard, so I kind of struggle with all these terms and how am I going to have to shape or frame my business to deal with it. Any of you in that space and thinking about how tech is really going to change your businesses, perhaps, in 2023 into 2024?
Everyone's looking around the room. I think from a recruiting point of view, the AI and the sort of automation piece is, again, to answer the question. So from, I guess, focusing on the recruitment side of things, we're having to be tech savvy. Whether it's our systems to be generating candidates through, whether it's actually the systems we use, all of that stuff. You simply have to have some level of proficiency in technology. That's the reality of 2023 and more. So we're having to embrace that. I think that the challenge then is the whole robot replacing the human type thing, and how far does that shift? How far does that go? Do you need people, or can automation sort of? And that's the big billion-pound question, which again I probably don't have the answer to. But I think for us this year, there's so much innovation going on. We get so many. I'm sure everyone does sales calls around this new tech products coming in. Do you want to work with this? So there's clearly a huge market in that space. But in recruitment we're having to be a lot more, and similarly with our procurement people, the AI and robotics and automation around sort of doing tendering and that type of stuff as well is quite prevalent. And again, it's the human side of it versus the automation, which we're seeing all the time. And let's use the example of job boards, right? So you go to LinkedIn, you apply for a job, you send out the CV. There isn't a human at the end of it often. It's obviously a filtering process, looking at sort of the algorithms of the wordings you put on your CV. So you could have the best procurement person in the world, but if they haven't mentioned procurement a certain amount of times, they generally won't go forward and be fired into an HR manager's inbox. It's crazy, but that is the way that tech is going, particularly with things like LinkedIn. So is that right? I'd probably say probably not, but that is the way that the market's going.
I suppose that's about the balance, particularly in a services business that you and I are both in. It's about getting that balance, using tech to be more efficient.
Yeah, but not to replace.
But not to replace, because actually we're both in people businesses.
Exactly.
Alex?
Yeah, just carry on with that point. It's understanding how and where to use tech in the right place, because there's some things that do need automation, and there's some things you do need to do doing face to face. So I think that's very important. Is don't use tech for tech's sake.
Yeah.
I've recently been involved in 3 different software projects, but even the process of implementation of those software projects are different between the 3 different companies, and some of them are better than others. But you've also got to be an expert on the software implementation and to actually implement the software in the first place. But it's almost getting to a point that you need expertise to give you advice on the tech solution. So a tech solution for the tech solution, because there is so many innovations coming up, and we use the word tech, but anything that's based in computerising and goes down a bit of wire. Obviously, we're a technology company, so our business sector moves a little bit slower than the rest of the market, but we're always looking for something new. And I think for us, it's the tech is mainly about how we run the business, and it's not just how we run the business in terms of the operations of the business, but the throughput of information and how we present information to the customer as well. That's something we're working on that's quite new. And that's the way we can have an advantage over our competition, and the way we interface with our customers, because our business sector is relatively small, and is not as developed as the consumer space. So we want to take some of the ideas that have been used in the consumer space that's customer based and move that into our business sector. So, but I think what is important is it is a full-time job just to research the tech, and then once you've found the tech, is that quite the right variant that you need?
There is so much, isn't there?
Is that the most cost-effective, and can I effectively implement it and get it to work? And then is it more cost-effective than not having the solution I've got already? So it's a science in itself.
Yeah. Great answer.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, just the amount of time. Sometimes it feels more like I'm running an IT business than it does a restaurant. And again, whether it's the stuff that happened in COVID, like everybody all of a sudden had to go to app-based ordering systems because we weren't allowed to actually see people face to face, and then everybody starts to pay their bills by app. It feels a little bit like when all of the call centres went overseas, and it was really convenient to the companies that moved their call centres, but not actually better customer service. And I think there's almost been a little bit of a kickback now, in the same way that we're bringing call centres back to the UK. Sometimes people are starting to go, you know what, like that ridiculous bot that jumps in every time I've tried to, you think you're going to be connected, chat to us now. So you go, oh great, I'll chat to you now. And then you realise that you're talking to a computer that's got no idea. In the same way that when you phone people and it says, what's the nature of your inquiry, and you realise you're talking to a robot, and you just say, I just want to speak to somebody. Would you and you're like, oh my god. So I hope we're going to have, maybe human beings will retake over some of this very soon. And then in our world, the other extremes, you've got things like the metaverse and restaurants opening in the metaverse, and that just blows my mind. And how vouchers that you purchase in the metaverse can be converted to a real drink, in the real world. All of that was getting quite a lot of momentum because there was probably a little bit of money sloshing around, and then COVID came and nobody had any money, and luckily it's all been binned for a while. But I think Zuckerberg's trying to fix that, because for me, running a restaurant in the metaverse was a leap too far. But where it's really useful, definitely, the database for marketing, being able to send out emails to people, knowing how many, whether as going back to what I said before, if you don't eat meat, you don't really want to be sent an offer from your local restaurant telling you about the offer they've got on steak and burgers, but you'd love to hear about the new salad or plant-based dishes they've got. So compartmentalizing the database and learning and knowing when our customers were last in, not just because they booked a table, but because they connected to the Wi-Fi, or there was some sort of interaction, or they checked in on Facebook. The more we we can bring all of that together, so we're not making ourselves look stupid, the better.
Yeah, and I think that is a big next step for us all, isn't it? How do we use data better?
Yes.
How do we collect the data that we all collect?
Yeah.
You know,
But so many people have jumped into that market. Alex makes a really good point, which is you need somebody to just go, yeah, I've tested all of this and this is the answer, because there's just so much of it.
Yeah, I'm all bombarded, as Martin was saying, by the sales calls.
Please tell me the answer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Right, I'm going to need to wrap up our conversation, so I'm going to end with a question for you, each of you, which is, if you were to project yourself now through to December 2023, what would a good year look like for you all? Alex?
Wow, that's a toughie. I think the things I've got planned for this year, if I get 80% of them done, that'd be fantastic. For us as a business, it's really actually about some of the tech solutions that I briefly talked upon, and they are putting in the foundations to basically to put an automation into a lot of the operational side of the business. The other big things was having we have a global structure of the business, having that fully up and running and working well, and obviously to be financially successful is always a bonus. So,
brilliant,
yeah.
Great answer, Mark.
Yeah, so I think the key one is, I want to be really proud of what we're creating, because we're getting back into that level of detail that I talked about, and really understanding the more simple aspect of the business better. I want to create something that we can really hold our heads high and go, yeah, that's amazing again. We lost our way a little bit about it, but we can just do better than we were. But the other one is exactly what Alex says. A definition of a good business has to be financially solvent, sustainable. We just need to make enough cash fundamentally in the summer to get us through the winter months, and we've not had a normal year now for probably 4 years because of COVID. Yeah. So a normal year where we're proud of what we've produced and we're financially successful.
Brilliant. Last but not least, Martin.
So I think I would like by December 2023 to have gone on holiday with my family and to have not checked my work phone and trust 100% that it's all good, at least for 2 or 3 days. That's Brilliant. A barometer of success for me, I think. And don't get me wrong, I've done that last year and generally been okay, but I've been a victim of last day just checking in on that. So I think a team that's completely, sort of sustainable and autonomous with their own delivery, which we're getting there. We're on the right sort of path. And like everyone, if we can have a happy, healthy team which makes some good profit and we see some level of growth, I'll be delighted.
Brilliant. Going to turn to each of you, and I'll start with you, Martin. If people want to know more about you and your business, where can they go?
So Martin Smith Talent Drive. So I'm talentdrive.co.uk or martin@talentdrive.co.uk.
Mark?
Go to the website urbangarden.co.uk for the business, and I'm at Mark Cribb on all of the social media channels.
Brilliant. Finally, Alex.
If you go to voidacoustics.com, you'll find us there. If you want to find me, I might be on Facebook. That's about it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. I've really enjoyed the conversation with the three of you. Thank you for your time. There's some great insights in that conversation, which I'm sure our listeners will take away. Thank you to each of you.
Thanks
very
very
much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Evolve to Succeed podcast. My hope with every episode is that you've learned something new or heard something that challenged your way of thinking and further motivated you on your path towards becoming a more knowledgeable, informed and inspired individual and business leader. If you enjoyed this episode, then please help us by rating, reviewing and subscribing. We really value your feedback and would love to have you along for future episodes. And please don't forget to learn more about Evolve by going to evolvemembers.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.